Chapter 6, Teams. After reading Chapter 6 and listening to this recorded session, you should be able to define the term team and outline the essential characteristics of teams, enumerate the stages of team development, and provide examples of team interactions during each stage. Compare and contrast multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and transdisciplinary teams. Outline 3 different purposes of student-centered teams and discuss their importance for special service providers. And lastly, list strategies for promoting team effectiveness. Take a moment to reflect on the term educational team. What does this mean to you? Pause the presentation for a moment and reflect on this question. An educational team is one in which there is a set of interdependent individuals, each with unique skills and perspectives that they bring to the table. Team members interact directly to achieve mutual goals. When an educational team functions efficiently, there is a greater likelihood that students will receive meaningful educational programs and services. How does this definition of an educational team compare to yours? Teams have clearly articulated goals. An educational team's goal is effective service delivery leading to positive student outcomes. Members are aware of their team membership role and responsibilities. Team interactions are regulated by shared norms which, hopefully, have been drafted by the team. Team members work interdependently, all bringing unique skills and perspectives. Think of past or current teams that you have been on. Did they share these characteristics? The developmental stages for teams include forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. During the forming stage, people want clear directions from other team members. People are typically polite, impersonal, watchful, and guarded at this early stage. People are just beginning to learn about each other as the team first forms. In the storming stage, people are more comfortable with each other and communicate more freely. This is the stage in which leadership may be challenged and difficulties begin to arise. Time is spent controlling conflicts, confronting team members, opting out of the group, and feeling stuck. As the group begins to settle, the team moves into the norming stage. Members begin to build trust and redefine and establish roles, relationships, and procedures. Norming is necessary for teams to establish patterns and routines. In performing, the team's development levels off, and the team focuses on accomplishing its goals. During the final stage, adjourning, the team begins to wind down and celebrate its accomplishments. There are both benefits and challenges when considering working in teams. Those described here are but a few of the benefits and drawbacks when using the team approach. Consider the following benefits. Teams have efficiency and potential for high-quality outcomes. Team members can be expected to develop a high level of interpersonal trust and more respect for one another. What might be some other benefits you have experienced while working on teams? Take a moment to think about this. There are also some drawbacks of teams. One of the most commonly cited barriers is that they are extremely time-consuming. What other drawbacks, either from your experiences or those listed on pages 139 and 140 of our text, have you experienced? There are some considerations that must be taken into account when determining whether or not to use a team approach. First, can one person sufficiently resolve the problem, or does it actually require the expertise of multiple individuals? Are other experts available to help develop a solution? Are the people who will most likely be affected by the decision an important part of the team? Are there physical requirements requiring team implementation? Does the solution require change in a process rather than in one element? And lastly, is the issue so broad or new that several minds are needed and are better than one? There are many team models used in educational and other settings to include multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and transdisciplinary. Components of teams include the philosophy of team interaction, the role of the family within the team, lines of communication, assessment process, service plan development, and service plan implementation. Let's consider each of the teams and how each component plays out for each type of team. First, multidisciplinary. Members acknowledge the importance of contributions from several disciplines. Services continue to remain independent. Families typically meet with team members separately by discipline. In terms of lines of communication, members exchange information about independent work. They may not see themselves as part of a team. Members conduct assessments by discipline as well as in separate environments. Regarding service plan development, members develop separate plans for interventions within their discipline. And lastly, in regards to service plan implementation, members of a multidisciplinary team implement their plans separately by discipline. Now let us consider the interdisciplinary team. Members share responsibility for services among disciplines. Families may meet with the team. Individual team members report by discipline. In terms of lines of communication, interdisciplinary teams meet regularly for case conferences and consultations. Members conduct assessments by discipline, and they also share results. Goals are developed by discipline and shared with the team to form a single service plan. Members implement the parts of the plan for which their discipline is responsible. Coordinated services are an expectation for interdisciplinary teams. Lastly, let's look at the components of the transdisciplinary teams. In terms of philosophy, members commit to teach, learn, and work across disciplines in planning and providing integrated services. Families are members of the team and determine their own team roles. Teams meet regularly for information sharing, learning across disciplines, consultation, and team building. Members participate in collaborative assessment, observing, and recording across disciplines. Staff and family members develop a plan together based on family concerns, resources, and priorities. Members share responsibility and accountability for how the plan is implemented by the team. If you look at the chart on page 141, all of the teams are described in detail in terms of each individual component. Consider the following about each team type. Multidisciplinary teams make decisions about eligibility and programs. Interdisciplinary teams coordinate information and services. And lastly, the transdisciplinary team is the most collaborative team model based on a process known as role release. Chapter 6 also discusses student-centered teams. There are instructional teams, which include co-teaching teams and grade-level teams. Another example of student-centered teams include problem-solving teams. They may be in the form of teacher assistance teams, intervention assistance teams, other intervention teams, as well as RTI teams. And then lastly, special education teams are also examples of student-centered teams. Effective teams have several characteristics. First, the team's goals are clear. Members' needs are met. In addition to group accountability, each member also has individual accountability. Group processes maintain the team. And lastly, team members have leadership skills. In closing, here are some key points about collaboration and teams. Collaboration can be applied to all types of teams. The defining characteristics of a team are very similar to those of collaboration. And effective teams are collaborative work groups. This concludes the Chapter 6 presentation on teams.